from this video I made a while back. This has been something that people have been asking me for like years to show how difficult. It's actually amazing effects where he does all this cool like magical stuff and all the floors helpful for me. You see the G. There's a ton. So I think the basic thing that you get on some other displacement map. Let's jump in. Oh. So let's call this column. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is put down a curve node. And I want to change this from polygon to Bezier curve. And what I'll do is I'm not going to click and drag anything. I'm just going to click and kind of make these like sharp angles. And you can do whatever you want, just make it however you want, just something like that. And I'm only going to do it in one quadrant here. Okay, and then the cool thing here is if you hit F on the keyboard, so you see up here you've got this little shortcut, F, G, H, O, and you can see what I'm doing. So F, oops, shit, get out of there. F on the keyboard selects edit mode. G on the keyboard, you see it moves this over. H on the keyboard. So you want to be in edit mode here, and you can select these corners or whatever corners you want. Let me just deselect this one. And then if you click this one here, it basically gives you these little dots that you can use to then perfectly bevel these points to whatever little curve you want, which is, it's really, really handy. So you can get it to be perfect. So I like that. So let's say I'm happy with that. And then what I want to do is, let's say I'm going to hit resample. And then let's make sure you see this here. And let's do a long chord. Something like this. Sure, that's fine. Okay, and then we're going to put down a mirror. And then we'll put down another mirror. And we'll just swing it this way. Oh, shit. Like that. Okay, and then we'll put down a fuse. And then we're going to put down a poly path. So, okay, if you hover over the fuse and middle mouse click, you can see that we have 4 separate polygons, or 4 separate primitives, which means there's 4 separate pieces. I want this to be all one single piece, or else this isn't going to work. So you put down the poly path, you can see that it merges it all into one. So one primitive, one polygon. So now we have this one piece here. Cool. And this is all procedural, so if you at any point you want to go back and change this, you can come back up to the curve node and do whatever you need to do, and it'll, you know, you can dynamically change the whole thing. Okay, but for now, let's say that's good. And what I want to do is put this into a copy and transform, and let's just move it up a little bit. Okay, let me get this, turn the snapping off here, and let's make like a bunch of them. Okay, and then we want to put a poly loft there, and that connects them. So it basically creates a skin around this. And I think it gives me UVs too. No, it doesn't. Okay, we'll do that in a second. So cool, we've got this nice column thing here. Okay, and let me do a few more copies. Let's go like that. Okay, and actually let me just keep going. Cool, so let's make it like that tall. Great. So we've got this. The next thing we want to do is we want to add UVs. So let's just put down a UV unwrap. And, oh, what the hell did I just do? Okay, so you've got the UV unwrap here. Not bad. I think it could be better. Let's try doing UV texture. And let's put it as cylindrical. That's a little better because it's basically a cylinder, and then we can kind of adjust the scale here to make it look like more squares. Okay, so these have to have UVs on it or else this whole trick won't work. Okay, great. So we've got that. The next thing we want to do is I want to create some sort of like little rings that kind of go up and down this thing. Okay, so what I can do, we've already got this polypath here. Let's just put a null over here. Let's make it black. I'm gonna hit Shift S on the keyboard to give me these nice little, if I hit Shift S, it's like that's the normal, but Shift S gives you this sort of like nice bendy thing, which I like, or the strings are a little better in my opinion. Okay, and let's put a sweep on it, like this. And let's merge these so we can actually see what we're doing here. And the sweep, instead of using second input, let's just put round tube for now. So you can see that it's created this little ring here. And I can reduce the columns down to make it like that. The other thing I can do is instead of using round tube, you could use second input. So let's just try using the exact same shape. And let's do, let me just put a transform here because I think this is sweeping it the wrong way. So let's try rotating it 90 degrees this way. Let's go -90. There we go. So now we're sweeping the same exact shape that we've created before around this thing. If we shrink it, we get some more detail like that. So you can create your own little whatever cross section you want, you can create that. So let's do it let's go like this. And I think this might give you UVs as well. Or maybe not. Compute UVs, there we go. Cool, so now we've got UVs on this guy. Okay, so we'll call this, let's put a null. We'll call this out ring, okay? Okay, so now we want to make a bunch of these rings all the way up, and we want to animate them. So what I want to do is I want to put down a line, and let me just template this guy and make the line, and hit Shift 3 on the keyboard so I can see my front view. And I want to make the line the same height as this. So basically like that, okay? And let's give it like 10 points. Maybe 15 points, okay? And let's get it nice and close. Something like that. Okay, cool. So we've got this line. And now I want to put down I can go back to our normal view, put down a mops instancer. So what I want to be instancing is this ring, and I want to instance it, the distribution type, instead of grid, I want to use curve. And the template object should be this line, right? So basically I'm copying this ring to this line that we've made. Now I could use the mops instancer to just do instead of distribution, I could do linear, and I could have the direction be in the Y, one in the Y, and do something similar, but you can't animate it the way that I want it to. I found that it's nice to distribute that way, but in order for this trick to animate these things constantly, it needs to be animated along a curve. And so that's why I created a curve here. And the one thing I want to do you want to go in the mops instancer, you're going to need to adjust the transform options here. So let's rotate this 90 degrees. And that should match up perfectly. And it does. Okay, so now we've got, let me just hook this guy here. And we can untemplate that, turn off our point thing, turn off that. So now we've got these little ribs sort of going up and down the column. And what I want to do, I think I want to make this a little thicker. So let's go like that so you can actually see it more. Cool. It's looking pretty good. Is that the right orientation? Let's see. No. I think this needs to be turned, oops, 90 degrees this way too. That's better. Okay, so now it's perfectly aligned. Okay, so we have these things. The next thing we want to do, we want to, why is this? Okay. Next thing we want to do is I want to be able to animate these guys here. So there's a MOPS node called MOPS move along curve or move along spline. So what it requires is the packed primitives and the spline. So we'll put this here for the packed primitives, and the line is our spline. I don't know why it's twisting them like that. Maybe this needs orient along curve. Let's try that. Let's put this here. Okay, so if I come in here, I figured it out. It's if you go into animate and you click turn off align to curve. Okay, so what we're going to basically be doing is under this animate tab, you can just animate this like this. So I want this to basically, let me turn on this guy here. I want to have it be 0 there, and then at maybe 24 frames, because I'm doing 24 frames per second, we're going to go one more. Let's go like, so I want it to be exactly, so let's see, there's one at the top. Let's go, so like right before it disappears. So let's just scrub till it's just appears right there. Okay. And that should work. So let's just come in here, grab these, and then make this flat. I want it to be constant. Okay, so something like that. And let's actually grab this here. And a little trick you can do is if you right click on this and you go to, oh, where the hell is it? Why can I never find it? Huh. That's very strange. I think if you, well, I can't see it, but if you hit Control E, right? No? Alt E, it's Alt E, okay. So then it gives you these little parameters that you can use to adjust what happens before and after your keyframe. So I want to go to after, and I want to go to slope, and then hit apply. And you can see that now it will do that forever, constantly, which is really nice. Cool. So we've got this sort of constant motion. All right, so that's great. The only thing is they're sort of like popping on and off. So let me merge this with this guy here, and you can see what's happening. So we've got this, but the ones at the top just disappear, and the one at the bottom just appears. So what I can do, I kind of want these to like fade in and out to look like they're sort of like emerging and diving back into the geometry itself. So there's this little parameter in the MOPS move along spline called keep goal attributes, and that just adds an attribute called goal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a wrangle, and don't be scared. This is super easy, something really easy to do. So we're going to go at goal equals tramp, which is channel ramp. We're going to call it goal, and it's based off goal. Okay, so and then we hit this guy here, and what we're going to do is we're going to make it basically have it fade in and out. So this will make sense in just a second. So let me just do change this to B spline, change this to B spline, move this to 0.5, and then we'll put another little knot and make it 0. Okay, so that didn't do anything obviously. So So we need to put down a mops transform. And we want the fall off attribute to be goal. So now, if I do the uniform scale here, you can see that it's only affecting the middle. So I've done this the exact opposite way that I need to do. So I need these two to go, the ends to go up and the middle to be down, like this. Value, why is this? Maybe I'll make a second one here. Second one here. Something like that. So, okay, so basically what I'm doing is I'm having it fade. So now, I've created this goal attribute, and then I've remapped the goal attribute here using a ramp so that on the ends, they get smaller. So what's happening is, you can see it here, they kind of shrink towards the tops and bottom. And then when you put this up against the geometry, it looks like it sort of fades into the geometry and emerges from the geometry. That way it's sort of, there's this sort of fluid appearing and disappearing instead of popping on and off, which I think really helps the effect. Okay, cool, so we've got that. The next thing we want to do is let's create the tops and bottoms. Let's create the base part. Okay, so let me do something like, okay, so to make the bottom thing, you can do this any way you like, but I am just going to reuse this guy here, this thing we've already set up, and let's just do a poly extrude, and we'll go, actually we want to go transform extruded front, hit enter on the keyboard, and we'll just pull it down like this. Okay, and then we want to make sure that we put extrusion, output back. I guess we can't do that right now. So then we want to put a reverse so that we have our reverse our normals, and then we'll put down a poly cap like that, which will fill it. Okay, and then I can just, there's a few things I could do. I could do poly extrudes to kind of make this all one shape, but I like to just do like let's do a copy transform, and let's bring this down, just like that. And then let's take the X scale right here and right click and go copy parameter. And then in the Z scale, go paste relative references. And then I can just bump this out a little bit. That's weird. Why is it doing delete channel? Paste relative references. There we go. I think I must have clicked the wrong one. So that way when I increase this, it bumps it outwards, but not upwards. Okay, and then I can do this a few times. And there we have this kind of like foot here. So we'll call this column, God, what am I doing? Put down a null first. Column base. Make it black. Okay, and I want to make sure that I UV texture this. Let's turn this on. Let's do cylindrical again. Kind of adjust this. Okay, so now we have our, ew, that looks terrible. Let's use UV unwrap. Yeah, it's a little better. Okay, so we've got our column base, and we've got this guy here. So what I want to do is I want to use this handy node. We're going to be using this a ton during these this tutorial series. I use this all the time. Let's move this over. By the way, if you hold Shift and grab a node and move it, it moves all of the nodes above it at the same time. Super handy. And conversely, if you move upwards and you hold Control and do that, it moves all the nodes connected below it down. It's a very handy way to move things organizationally. Okay, so we want to use a node called the match size. And this is probably like the coolest, it's such a great utility node for modeling, and especially for something like this. So what I want to do is I want to plug in this column base to the geometry to move and resize. And then I want to plug in this one here. And what that's going to do, right now it moves it to the center because everything is set to center. But I want to justify the Y, the top of this thing to the bottom of this thing. So I want to justify my Y max to the minimum of the other one. And then when I merge these, you can see it's now essentially stuck to the bottom of this thing. So what's handy about that for procedural modeling, it's amazing because if well, it probably won't, you won't really be able to see it on the bottom here, but let's do it again for the top and I'll show you what's gonna happen. So let's take this and let me transform this. Put a node here. Let's flip it upside down just to make it for the top part. And I want to do the exact same thing, except I want to justify the Y minimum to the maximum of the other one. So now it's stuck to the top, and then we can merge this together. So now we have a column, footer, and header on the top. So the great thing about this is it's now stuck there. So if I take this copy transform and I move it down or up, it's just going to dynamically stay exactly there. So it keeps things really procedural. It's super, super handy for modeling stuff like this and for animating things procedurally, because I can just animate this up and down and that just stays the same. Okay, great. So now let's sever this, put this back in. So now we've got, why does it keep doing this error thing? Get out of here. So now we've got this. Cool, so we're almost there. The last thing I want to do is, so I need to unpack this or else this won't work. So you can't not have packed geometry for this part. It has to be unpacked, which unfortunately makes it run a little slower, but the effect doesn't work otherwise. Okay, so let's check that. Let's put some normals on this. So these all have normals, and let's cusp this. I want this to be like super sharp feeling. Cool. Maybe not quite that sharp. Maybe like that. Cool. Okay, so here's where the magic happens. So we've got this animated thing. Now how do we make it kaleidoscopic? Okay, so let's append a null. Let's call this out column, just out column. Okay, and let's put a transform node. And I like to color the nodes that have animation on them green so that I can find them later. So I should probably do that with this move along spline. So anytime I come in and I'm looking at a node tree, I can see, oh, the green ones, those are the ones that have keyframes on them. That helps me find things. So black nodes are always my nulls, and my green ones are always my keyframed nodes. Something helpful organizationally for your future self. Okay, so let's put down a clip node. And what the clip node does, if you've never used it, is it essentially just clips the geometry. It's not quite a Boolean, but it just like deletes anything below this line. So I want this to be, let's turn it like this. So we can clip it, and then let's turn it at a 45-degree angle like that. Okay, and then I want to put down a mirror, which essentially just mirrors the geometry. So we've kind of rebuilt our column here. So we've clipped one side of it off, and then we've just mirrored that along the same plane. But with this transform node here, I can rotate it and now it's clipping and mirroring into itself. So we've done that one direction, right? So we've clipped it along this 45-degree angle, and then we've mirrored it there. So now let's do the exact same thing again. Get out of here. Let's put this here. Let's clip, but instead of turning it this way, oh shit. Instead of turning it this way, let's mirror it the other direction and put down a mirror and turn this like that. So now we've got it clipped and mirrored 4 different ways. So if I take this transform node, you can actually move it in and outwards. You can spin it. Let's try, so if I move it inwards, it shrinks the column. If I move it outwards, it kind of thickens the column. Oh shit, fatal error. Get out of here. So we've got it clipped and mirrored 4 ways. Now the cool thing is you can do this as many times as you wanted. If you wanted to do, so I'm only doing like an X like that and mirroring it both ways, but you could clip this like 7 ways. So you know you're dividing it up like a pizza slice. You could try different angles, but that's essentially the basis of the effect. And then you have this transform here, and you just rotate it. So let's just put down. God, why the fuck are you crashing, you son of a bitch? So I'm not sure why this keeps crashing. It seems like this version of Houdini doesn't like the clip and mirror thing, but maybe I need to upgrade to Houdini 20.5. I think they completely redid the clip node actually, so it's supposed to be a lot faster. So maybe I'll try that. I made this originally in like Houdini 19, and it wasn't a problem. So I don't know what the deal is here. But basically, you can animate this by just putting in a little $F times 2. So basically, every frame it'll just kind of constantly rotate, and then just times 2 means it's going to rotate twice as fast. So let me try just putting down a file cache, see if that makes a difference. Maybe I just need to cache it. Okay, for some reason my computer is just really hating this clip and mirror thing today. This hasn't really ever been a problem before. I don't know if it's the version of Houdini or if it's just my PC's just having a bad day. But there's a few things I'm going to try, and there's a few things I'm going to show you that can really help here. So one thing we did before, if we come back up to our poly path, you can see it's got a ton of points on it, right? And we originally put it in a copy node and a poly loft like that, which that's cool, that works, but it gives us a ton of polygons here. So one thing I want to do is after the poly path, we're going to do this a little differently to reduce our polygons, because right now we've got, let's see, 4,000 points, almost 5,000 points, and almost 10,000 primitives. And eventually you're going to have a ton of geo in your scene, so you want to reduce this as much as possible. So a little trick, if you put down a facet node, and you click this, so you put down a facet node after your polypath and click this remove inline points. Basically any straight edge, it just removes all those points. So that's going to reduce our geometry a lot. And then instead of using the copy and the polyloft thing, I just went ahead and used a poly extrude and just used transform extruded front and then just translate up in the Y a bit. So that takes us, instead of having, you know, what is it, 4,700 primitives, we now have 76 primitives. It reduces it a ton. And then we just plug it back in, and everything's procedural again. We're still using this match size, so it sticks these things to the bottom of it and the top of it. We've got way, 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 way fewer polygons. Okay, so that's one thing we can do that can help the performance a bit. The other thing is, after this unpack node here, I went ahead and actually, there's a ton of geo here. So I want to, oops, get out of here. Same thing, I want to use this facet node here where we have the remove inline points. So before we were using it, it has tons and tons of geo. We don't need all that geo. We just need the detail in the curves and not in the straight parts. Okay, so that helps. So then what I want to do is I want to put down a file node and save it to disk. So it helps a lot to cache everything. So now I've got the rings cached. It's moving way faster. Okay, great. Then we kind of come back down here. We've got our guy, our column here. It's moving so much faster without all that geo. Okay, and then I've got our clip mirror and stuff, and it's fine for like a single frame, but when I try to, whenever I try to just play it in the viewport, for some reason it's crashing. I don't know what the deal is today, so I'm gonna try and file cache this. Hopefully that doesn't crash. Oh, you son of a bitch. So I don't know why it keeps crashing. It's super annoying, super frustrating. Another thing I want to do though, before I try and cache this here, this is really, really important, is you need to put down a couple of name attributes. So here we have our column, right? So I want to put down a name, and I'm going to make this, let's just say, let's make it this like purple color. Okay, and the name, I'm going to call it column. Okay, and then over here, after the, come on, just shake it loose. So after the rings, I'm going to call this rings. So this is going to be important for later when we go to texture these, because we're merging this all into one item. But later on, when once I place this in my scene, I can specify that I can put one material on the rings, I can put one material on the column, or do whatever I want there. Okay. So I want to try and cache this as an alembic just to see if I can fix this problem. I don't know why this thing keeps crashing. Sorry, guys. But you want to click this build hierarchy from attribute, and the path attribute should be name. So what that's going to do is when you save this as an alembic, it'll separate these items into two things. You'll have the rings as a separate item and the column as a separate item, which is super helpful. So let's try render frame range. Let's try save the disk and see if this works. Please don't crash. Oh, it's working. Oh no! All right, so I was able to cache some of it here. Let me just play. I have no idea why my computer is just crashing and just hates this file right now. This was not a problem at all when I was building this project 2 years ago. So it's probably something to do with my Houdini version, but I got it to work at least for this. So I can kind of show you what's happening here. So now we've got the effect working. I've got it spinning, it's mirroring, it's clipping in two different directions. And we have this nice, these sort of rings going up and down. And then the reason I wanted to show you to put down the name attribute is, I'll just give you an example here. So later on when we texture this, if we put a color down, let's put down like orange, and then we can just assign that to like only the rings. So if we wanted to make the rings gold, or if we wanted to make the column but not the rings gold, or whatever, you know, make one stone, make the fuck out of here. So that way you have the ability to isolate the different parts of your model and assign different textures to them later. So that's essentially the basis of this effect. I'll be going into more detail in later tutorials as we kind of build out more of the scene. I'm going to try updating my Houdini version to the new 20.5. I know that they did a lot of work on the clip node specifically on that one to make it a lot faster. So I'm hoping that this weird issue I'm having with crashing isn't an issue. I never had this before. Hopefully your version of Houdini is working better than mine right now, because I don't know what the deal is. But yeah, that's essentially the basis of the effect. Just trying to animate every possible thing you can, and then just filling your scene with tons of animated geometry, and it makes it look really, really, really complex. Okay, so I hope you found this helpful, and I will continue to make some more tutorials about this stuff in the future and kind of show you how to do different things that I made in this short film. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next tutorial.